In this lesson, we seek to answer one of the most difficult questions. Why did our loved one leave us? And this is where the spiritual wisdom has an important message to teach us. Death is not a punishment. Death is not your enemy. And sometimes it can feel like this huge injustice that's happened to us. Death can feel like something that we need to fear before it happens. And when it happens to our loved ones, it's just something that we need to tolerate. And this is because we've been conditioned from a young age that birth is good and death is bad. Society has trained us to think that receiving is better than losing. And because we think like that, we naturally want to hold on to pleasure forever. And we want to run away from pain as much as possible. And what this does is this creates an imbalance within our mind. It's like only wanting the sun to rise and never wanting it to set. I grew up in a home where I was told to never discuss death. It's almost as though if you brought it up in conversation, you were going to invite the force of death into your home. But I've always felt that death doesn't need my invitation. And the wisdom of Guru Granth Sahib teaches a similar message. It says, Marna Murat Puchya, Puchi Tit Navar. Death never asks the time, nor the date or day of the week. So what the wisdom is teaching us is that death shouldn't be avoided. It's an inevitable truth that needs to be understood and even embraced. But often we ask, but why did this happen now? Why did it happen to them? Why did the good people seem to die? We want to have reasons for why we're going through this trauma in our life. Is it something to do with our past karma? Could their destiny have been changed in some way? And to this, the wisdom teaches us that death really is a mystery. It really is unknown why it acts the way it does. But what it teaches us is death isn't something to be avoided. In fact, it's a necessary law of nature. What we learn is that nothing would exist without death. I'm reminded of a time where I was driving my car on the highway and I went past a car scrapyard. And while I was driving past, I thought about the very first car that I had ever owned. And I was thinking, I wonder where that car is now. It's so old that surely it's not around in that same shape or that same form. But then as I was thinking about it, it made me realize that all the parts of the car must still exist somewhere. All the metal, the plastics, the rubber, the glass, they couldn't have disappeared. They can't have gone anywhere. Somehow, somewhere, they're still here. It made me realize that the same truth can be applied to us. All of our atoms that our body is made from is borrowed from nature. Think about all the food that you eat, whether it's plants or animals. All of the things that you eat have gone into your body and have made it what it is right now. So death is necessary for us to survive. The very reason that we're alive is because we are reliant on the death of the food, the plant, the animal that we've eaten, in order to keep us alive. And this gives us a better perspective about what death really means in life. When we think like this, we realize that our loved one hasn't disappeared, but in fact, they've just returned home to where they came from. Temporarily, there was a life force that was in their body, but now their body has gone back into the earth. Their breath has gone back into the air. All their fluids in the body have gone back into the oceans. And their life energy merges with the life energy that's all around us. When we understand life like this, we realize that death is not our enemy. It's simply a transition. It's the universe changing from one form to another. And we realize how important it is to have death all around us. It's like trying to understand that the sun has to set in order for the stars to come out at night. And then that transitions into another sunrise. And so the sunrise is not against the sunset. In fact, they just complement each other. You know, at home, I have these apple trees growing in my back garden. And for just a few short weeks a year, these beautiful pink and white flowers appear. And I'm always a little bit sad when the flowers die and disappear. But then I realize that those flowers have to die in order for the apples to grow. And when we think like this, we begin to understand that this is all just a beautiful cycle that all of us are in. We're all a part of this system. Now the question is, can we accept this process of the universe? Can we understand that we're part of a system that's far bigger than we can comprehend? Because as long as you hold on to the pain, you're holding on to a feeling that you've been wronged somehow. And when we do this, we're denying death. We're saying that we only want life. And this is an imbalance. If you held a funeral for your loved one, then I want you to understand that that was an important, symbolic ceremony. A ceremony where you are handing back your loved one, returning them back to life. If you buried your loved one's body, or you spread their ashes out in nature, what you were doing was you were acknowledging that they were a gift that you had to borrow for a short period of time. But at the end, they needed to be returned. But always remember that your loved ones are still here. In a different way, in a different form. Their life energy is all around you. Their body has transitioned into a different form. Every time you see a new baby, new flowers, birds flying up above, this is your loved one. This is the energy of your loved one. Their life energy is in all these beautiful things around you. So they haven't gone anywhere. In fact, they are everywhere. So I hope that you can take comfort in this important wisdom. Death is not a punishment. Death is not your enemy. Have a go at trying to answer these questions, either by writing them down or discussing them in your groups. Which practices and ceremonies have you found useful to come to terms with the death of your loved one? Are you able to see your loved one's funeral as a step towards your healing? What is the most difficult time of day or week for you, and why?